Well, thank you. Thank you for coming down and joining us here today and sharing your story. One of the big things is we got a lot of like men that can't wait to
Mhm.
jump on here, but I really find that the women really not only have a ton of inspiration, but you give such a different angle on the
Mhm.
entire industry, and boy, does it help so many people out there. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It's definitely a man's world in this Airbnb space, but going to school for engineering and navigating that world kind of set me up to, still figure things out.
Oh,
So,
wow, very cool. But yeah, thank you for joining us on the podcast this week. You just said something very interesting, whereas you didn't start with Airbnb, you started with engineering school.
yes.
So
So,
tell us about that.
yes. So I went to University of Maryland and I actually went to school for chemical engineering, but got lost on the day of orientation. I ended up finding a fire protection engineering advisor, and she helped me. She was like, "Hey, do you want to check out fire protection?" And I was like, "Okay, cute." So went to their orientation. It sounded like the most interesting engineering option that they had. So spent my 4 years learning that. But then pivoted to recruiting right after graduating school. So did my internships, did my coursework, but I was like, no, I'm good. So here I am 5 years later, working in tech as a recruiter and focusing on diversity and inclusion while also running this Airbnb business.
I cannot wait to dive into here. First and foremost, it was very apparent that you don't seem like a typical engineer type. You're vibrant, you're charismatic, you're already fun to talk to. So, were you sort of the odd woman out in the engineers?
Yeah, I mean, I was the only, we had a few women in my class, like single digits for fire protection engineering, and I was the only Black person in my class. So I've always felt like an oddball, but found a way to still like thrive regardless. So yeah, I've just over the years I've learned like it's okay to still keep my personality and be me and excel at what I do.
Incredible. Well, your confidence exudes through the screen. So, what I find is interesting also is that engineering and recruiting, they could not be more polar opposites.
Mhm.
So, how did you end up graduating from engineering and then jumping into recruiting?
So I was interning at Boeing in 2016 and absolutely dreaded my internship, if I have to be completely honest. And I remember a friend of mine who had worked at Microsoft was like, how's your internship? Awful. Oh, well, what do you want to do? I'd love to do diversity recruiting and really focus on increasing representation in the tech field. A lot of that was actually like built off of like my experience as one of the onlys in college. And so
Mhm.
he was like, "Oh, well, I know someone who is part of your sorority and she'll be at a happy hour tomorrow. You should go bring your resume and see what happens." So yeah, I met my recruiter at a Delta happy hour in the middle of Seattle on like a random Wednesday. And the rest is history. She helped me navigate the questions around like transferring from engineering to recruiting. And I fell in love ever since. I think the culture is a much better fit for me. And I've really had an opportunity to like bring my whole self to work and truly enjoy the work that I do.
You know, what's incredible is most people find Airbnb because they're trying to escape from their work or they're trying
Mhm.
to leave somewhere that they don't like. You, on the other hand, have something that you absolutely love. And it
Yeah.
feels like, correct me if I'm wrong, you've almost found a passion and a purpose in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
Can,
sure.
can you help us explain that? What is well, you and I know, but what is the purpose of inclusion and of having diversity within the workplace?
Yeah, I think the biggest purpose is like being able to have representation in, especially if I want to take recruiting, like being able to have representation in the products that we make and making sure that like we can hire the engineers who can be like, okay, well, have you thought about, this feature when it comes to people with disabilities, or have you thought about this feature when it comes to facial recognition with, someone who may be of darker skin tones? And so having the opportunity to really be able to impact the landscape and the ability for us to feel more connected by having that proximity is everything. And I think in recruiting, you have the opportunity to truly change someone's life with, extending offers. But then it's like, how do we ensure once they get in here, whether it be, tech or any big company, like how do we ensure that they feel included and supported and have the ecosystem to truly be able to thrive? And we need to be able to, represent different facets and different races, genders, abilities, all of that in order for us to truly feel representative of our communities.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love how you've taken something so cold like tech and given it such, make it so human, so humanistic, really having a holistic approach to understand that, hey, it's not about features and benefits. It's about how do we help? How do we expand? How do we explore? How do we connect? Just absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
So you're in this field that you absolutely love, that you're thriving, that you're contributing at a high level. What got you an Airbnb?
Being bored in the pandemic, if I'm being completely honest. So, yeah, I remember like middle of 2020, I was like, we were on our couches twiddling our thumbs and like, waiting for this miraculous shift to happen where the pandemic was just going to like evaporate, and it didn't. So I was like, okay, we're going to be here for a while. Let me learn a thing or two. And so I actually started like religiously every Monday would watch this podcast called Earn Your Leisure, and they would
hmm
focus on increasing financial literacy and building wealth like within the Black community. And one day they had this Airbnb host on there really like laying out what the rental arbitrage model was like and how it was truly feasible to be able to get into the Airbnb business via rental arbitrage versus like having to buy a house, which I think, at least me personally, like I thought that was the only way.
hmm
So yeah, I was like, I like it. Like, this is something I could do. And then I remember doing a bunch of research and came across Sean's YouTube page, and then came across his Facebook group. And then I was like, oh my gosh, there's actually a whole entire course built out where it's literally all inclusive with everything that I would need to be successful. And so, yeah, August 2021, yeah, that's when I had got his course. And I remember speaking with Alberto, I think. It might have been, I'm 90% sure it was Alberto or like Alfonso or something like that. Anyways, I was energized on that call around like what could be and like what my goals were when it came to this business. And I think like a year plus later now exceeding my goals is like it was well worth the investment. And I'm really glad that I chose to like trust Sean and his course in order to help get me where I am today.
Well, it's incredible. We will get to your successes because they are grand. I'm really interested because in your history up till now, it hasn't been anything to do with entrepreneurship or setting out on your own. Even though that call got you charged up, excited, was there any preservations about going out on your own and starting something?
Yeah, no, I fought myself for months. Like, I think I had scheduled the call before I had actually, like, I think I'd scheduled it a few times, like, hey, yeah, I'm not ready yet. And I had actually asked a few people in Sean's free Facebook group, like, hey, have you taken the course? What are your thoughts? Because it was the biggest investment that I've ever made, honestly.
hmm
And I just wanted to like double, triple check that there was a differentiation between like taking his course and getting that support versus just learning everything that was free like on his YouTube channel.
Well, let's talk about that because that's a question I get lots, which is, hey,
Yeah.
Sean gives away so much free content, and he even says you don't need to pay for a course to start an
Yeah.
Airbnb business. What were the differences you found between the free content and ultimately jumping into the mentorship program?
I went from overwhelm to structure. And I am someone who thrives with having, one structure, but two, like support where I can like ask follow-up questions. And for me, like while Sean's YouTube page is very well organized with like the topics and then like having the videos aligned to those topics, it was still a lot. And I was like, if I can just get this all in like, a playbook, I'll go through the course, ask questions, and have the community. Like it was the perfect mix that I needed. Um, yeah. So, I mean, it was a lot of content. Like the course is thick, but expected, like given, the investment that was made. So
Fantastic, fantastic. I actually have noticed also that when you joined the program, it wasn't like overnight and you got it. And I
Mhm.
think if you joined in August, I think your first unit was in January. Was that right?
Yep.
Right. So you had from August to January. That was 6 months of the course
Mhm.
where you didn't get your first property, but you were so active in the community. Talk
Yeah.
to us about those 6 months about, okay, you're invested, you just put in more money than you're invested. Holy cow, I'm not getting my first place yet. What was that
Yeah.
journey like?
So I spent like I remember I first spent like I had two Saturday mornings carved out where I would like go through coursework, and then we would have our Saturday calls where I would do a lot more listening with like where people's pain points were, and add a whole like Google Doc of just like all of the notes from the meetings. And then I was like, let me dip my toe in the water a little bit and test the market out here in Raleigh. So I actually rented out the first floor of my house. So I did a bit of house hacking. And once I was consistently booked, I was like, okay, it's game time. So I started reaching out to apartment complexes probably in like November,
Mhm.
early November. And I got my first yes in like middle of December, early to mid December. And I sat on that yes for like 6 weeks. So I didn't actually move into my first unit until January 28th. And then my second unit, I had moved in on January 30th. Um, it was a lot of just like what ifs and like, can this actually work for me? But I think the biggest question in my head was, can I actually trust my market research that I did leveraging, Sean's templates in his course?
Oh, I love that. I love that because you're right. It is, you're about to take the dive in, and
Mm-hmm.
correct me if I'm wrong. One of the biggest worries on the first one is, what if I get stuck? What if I get
Yes.
stuck and have to pay this lease? So what was it for you that ultimately made you say like, no, this is it. I'm going in.
Couldn't sleep at night, and I feel like I'll also say I am Christian, and I know that like when God continues to like tap on my heart, like this, like I'm putting this on your heart for a reason. Like I realize, like okay, trust. Like you just have to trust that if this is something God's put on your heart, and you've done all that you can when it comes to market research, and the numbers are making sense, get two. If two doesn't work out, like it's not like you have a whole entire mortgage that you have to, figure out how you're gonna manage. Like if worst comes to worst, pay the, whatever the move out cost is or transfer the lease. So I had to change my mindset from like, what if it doesn't work out to what if it does work out? So yeah, it was a lot of self talk, a lot of books. I read books around like, taking this like leap of faith and not necessarily knowing if it's going to work out, but trusting that it will. So,
So incredible because changing the mental shift is so important to
mm-hmm.
really trusting in yourself, giving
Mm-hmm.
yourself that spark to see something through. The fact that not only did you trust in your faith, but coached yourself through this, just a testament to how great of a leader you are. I can only imagine what you are like with your team members at work.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I love all my teammates.
So you're getting started. You've house hacked your first house. Now
Mm-hmm.
you're prepared. You've locked down your first unit. And then I think from there's things really pick up fast for you. So
Mm-hmm.
what was the first arbitrage unit like for you? Do you remember what it was like setting that one up?
Uh-huh. It was exhausting. I remember the first one I got was a two-bed apartment, and my approach was to leverage Facebook Marketplace and
Oh boy.
skirt all around town in the U-Haul, thinking I was saving money, but when you really think about time, it would have been a lot easier to just buy the stuff online, have it shipped, and then hire someone to put it together. But did all the U-Haul running with my fiance and her, and then I had my sister who is at UNC and her boyfriend at the time, like they had helped me put all the stuff together, all the beds, um, bought all the pictures from like random places. It was a humbling experience, is how I'll. Yeah, yeah, it was a lot, and it took way longer than it needed to. Like I recently was able to put it together a unit in 5 days, but I would say that one probably took me about 2 weeks. be honest.
There is a rite of passage that every
Yeah.
host has to go through, which is building all of your furniture for the first property. That's when you
Hmm.
really know that you're in the Airbnb space. Do you remember what the budget you ultimately spent to get the first arbitrage unit up?
Yeah, so the two bedroom, when it came to furnishings, it was about 7,000.
Mhm.
And then that 2 days later, I got in the one bedroom, and that one was closer to 5,000.
Perfect. So it's actually right on the budget that Sean usually
Yeah,
generally sets out. That's great.
yeah,
That's great. And you said it took you about 2 weeks to get it all done because of the running around and shopping.
yeah. So I listed those the week of February 20th. I remember because I had flown out to Houston, and I remember that night I listed it in the morning. The night before I went to bed, I got bookings for both, and I was like, "Oh crap, it's going down! Like it's happening." Yeah, so I think maybe it was a little bit more than 2 weeks then, if that was the week of the 20th. But yeah.
I don't want to skip ahead too much because this is one of the most beautiful moments of every person's life. It's getting that alert on your phone and seeing that you just sold something while you're sitting at a burger
Mhm.
joint or at your mom's place. Do you recount that memory and what that felt like?
Yeah, I my jaw dropped, and I texted my fiance and was like, "It's happening!" Like it's working. And I think at the time I still had instant book on, and so I was like, thank God I had everything put together. I had all the pictures taken. Like it was a matter of I didn't have lock boxes at the time, so I left the key under the door. Yeah, it was like, I don't know. I was grateful that I had taken the time beforehand to prep everything, so my fiance just had to like put the key under the door for me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Is fiance full time with the business with you as well?
No, he actually is in his last year of getting his PhD.
Oh wow, wow.
So
So you it's a solo project. You run the whole
yeah,
thing.
yes, but he's not formally like on the business like in my EIN number, but he is definitely a huge support when it comes to, especially if I'm out of town and I need help like I
That's
did.
great. That's great. So let's give the audience here a sneak peek. As of January, you had your first two units.
Mhm.
Fast forward now 11 months. How many units are you at right now?
We had 10.
Yeah, 10, double
Yes,
digits,
yes.
10 units. But I think what's even more credible is the last 5 units, were they a batch deal?
Mm,
And not only were they a batch deal, you also got, I believe it's 6 weeks of free rent on
mhm.
all of those, on each unit.
Yep.
Incredible. So for the audience, stay tuned because we're going to show you how you can go from single deals to big deals. But let's connect the dots. How do we go from your first 2 units? You just got notifications come in, and then how do we get the 3 more after that?
So got the first two late January, and then I basically took from January, well, I guess from February, call it, through June. I took that time to just like recoup the money and then build up reserves to be able to get my next three. So the next three I did in the package. I wasn't able to get like concessions on those, unfortunately. But I did get them at a fairly good price prior to like the huge spike in prices that went up during like the summertime. So yeah, put those three together immediately, again, like had bookings. And part of that was that I personally enjoy focusing more so on travel nurses and business travelers, just because with working a 9 to 5 and prior to hiring a full cleaning team, yeah, the time was not there to be doing like daily or weekly flips.
Mhm.
And so I all three of those next three units were all filled with travel nurses within like a week of me listing them. And one of them, I even had one of my other travel nurses who was in one of the first two. She had referred one of her coworkers to me so that like when she was joining that hospital, she would have somewhere to stay. So like they were friends, which was cute. But yeah, so those were the next three, and then I leveraged the capital from those five to then get my next five, which I've got in late September. And that this one was more strategic. So I was looking out for apartment complexes that were like just getting built, and tried to leverage like the lease up strategy. And funny enough, I have a running list of like places that I contact, whether or not they allow for corporate housing, and then what the property management company is, so that like maybe they do allow for it, but they're, at total capacity now, but
Mhm.
their sister property could take me. So this complex, I had actually reached out to them when they had first opened a few months ago, and they told me that they didn't do corporate housing, but I saw that like they kept building like more and more of the apartment buildings within the complex. So I called again in like mid-September, and they were like, yeah, we do that. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, can I come by tomorrow for a walkthrough? And yeah, they had I had asked for 4 to 8 weeks of rent, and they met me halfway at 6. And then they also had a special going with $250 admin fee removed. So that was waived. So yeah, that was another, grand plus that I got taken off. So all in all, like I am definitely someone who appreciates the midterm rentals most, but I'm seeing a bit of a shift right now in our market where I am having to do a bit more of the short terms, but that's okay because I remember telling Sean, I was like, Sean, I'm at 5 units. It was during one of our Saturday calls. I was like, I'm at 5 units. I'm tired. Um, what do you recommend I hire right now? And he was like, you need to hire cleaning. So once I did that, like I haven't seen some of my units since like April, May. So
Perfect. Okay, let's jump into this because we're getting into some pro material. So I can't wait to dive into the numbers. But
okay.
let's get into cleaners in 2 seconds. Those 5 units, how much is the rent on those? And we can average it if they're all different.
Yeah, they're all about 1,500.
About 1,500.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you got 6 weeks on each, that means you had gained 2,250 on each unit times five plus the 1,500 and those admins. You had saved yourself $12,750 off of one conversation just by knowing how to strategically talk to landlords.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, I'll add so that's like the 1,500 is not including like it's like a $60 internet fee. So they do the internet through the apartment complex, and like valet trash and pest control. So it's probably closer to like 1,650 when I include all of like the amenities that they include in the rent. But yeah, it was like 13,000 ish. Yeah. Of
Wow.
yeah. So it's definitely helped with like just being able to um like get the startup costs paid off way quicker, and then like getting into profit territory like exponentially faster than those first two.
It truly is. It really cuts it down from, 4 months if you're running smooth to you're profitable by month two.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because a lot of people don't get it that it's not just the rental concessions you get the free rent, but
Yeah.
it took you 5 days to set up. That's
Yeah.
26 days of pure profit that now you're renting out. So you turn them over extremely quick. So I'm very happy that you're at this stage. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of learnings along the way, and I kept a list of them so like we don't make the same mistake twice.
Great, great. Let's talk about the cleaners. So you're at 5 units and your bandwidth was filled, which by the
Mm-hmm.
way, for the viewers out there, that's exactly when we usually get calls. We usually get calls from people who are just starting off or right when they're between that seven, edging on a seven, because what people a lot of times find out is that what worked at 3 units is not working at seven. And the business is sucking you back in.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that period when you're at five and how much was the business taking of your time at that point?
Um, honestly, it wasn't taking up too much time because I had like 13-week leases at that point. Like all summer I was rarely in those units.
Because of the traveling nurses?
Yeah, but I will say I was at that time I was also testing out different cleaners that I had found on Turnover B&B. But what I found was that like they were charging a lot on Turnover B&B for like the what I could realistically charge for a cleaning fee. And like they weren't as thorough as like what I actually needed when it comes to like how Sean teaches when it with like doing your flips. Um, so yeah, I mean, I wasn't in it a lot at that time, but it wasn't until I had to start transferring over to more of the short terms, which took place in maybe like August, where I was like, crap, I need to really like hire a team. That I remember Sean had mentioned, like, if you need to, you can hire a team that specializes in short-term rentals. And then like at some point you'll need to hire hourly. And so right now that team is serving me really well. And I realize that I have opportunity to kind of cut the cleaning costs in the future by hiring hourly, but I'm not sure when I'm gonna make that move.
And you know what? Cleaning costs aside, you had mentioned that the operations has
Yeah.
really streamlined. Is that because of how well that they've essentially taken care of the property, how well that they've turned it over, report back to
Mm-hmm.
you for damages? What does
Yes.
that whole process look like, the turnover process for you now?
So now, like, I have my cleaners as co-host or as admins, I think, on my Airbnb dashboard. So they see when I have people coming in and out, and everything is automated where they have a team of cleaners that are assigned to my various apartment complexes. And like, I don't have to text them like, hey, there's a checkout today. Like they know, and they'll send someone out, and then they send me a recap email or text with how the place was whenever they went in, how it looked when they left, and then any damages, and then anything that I need to restock with inventory.
Wonderful. So now it's a well-oiled machine. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to touch the properties. And so what does the business look like today?
Um, today, hmm. Today I will say I feel like I'm working on it more than I'm working in it. So like anything, if anything, like the only time I'm going in, it took us a while to like hone in on our SOPs and understand like, okay, where do you want me to put like the storage bins where we have like our centralized storage bin at the apartment complex versus um I've learned that it's easier and more efficient for them to have one in each unit. So, how big of a storage unit? I'm sorry, how big of a storage bin do you need? What all do you need in the storage bin? And so, we've gotten to a good point now where I'll just do like a Costco run every few months and restock with like toilet paper, paper towels, all the things that are needed for like refills. I think the biggest area where I'd love to hire someone to do this, but I know it would mean less in my pocket is like the customer support stuff and like dealing like navigating the combos with management at each of the properties. But I know it's part of the business. So Sean did humble me with that. Like you're not there yet where you can hire a whole like management team. But yeah, it's minimal. Like it's probably an hour max per day.
An hour max per day. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, do you mind if we get into the numbers?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. So at the 10 properties, how much is the business grossing at this point?
Um, I am I'm coming up on my $90,000 mark, and I am confident that by the end of this month I'll be able to hit $100,000.
Got it. Now, is that monthly?
No, that's total.
That's year to date. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Year to date.
Gotcha. If it was 100 per month, we are rocking.
Yeah, come back to me this time next year, or the year after.
Great. So you essentially built yourself a sustainable, six-figure business at an hour a day. How does that make
Mhm.
you feel?
I'm excited. Like, I think now I was sharing with a friend, like yesterday I was sharing how like working at a big tech company where we do high volume hiring and we have to find ways to scale our hiring efforts without hiring more people at times. It's really showed me the power of like scaling period. So what I make now in a month is it took me a whole quarter to make that when I started, right? So I'm excited for like what's to come and I'm just going to continue like reinvesting money into this. I think I never had a goal of hitting six figures in my first year, but now I'm like, dang, I could probably hit seven figures by 2024. If I scale to probably like I think I have to scale to like 25 to 27. I did the math with my business coach a few weeks ago, but yeah, it's exciting. That's a long-winded way of saying I'm looking forward to what's to come.
Yeah, Sean does have a saying where if you can do one, you can do 10 because you're really
Yeah.
just rinsing, repeating, and just
Yeah.
really putting the scaffolding around the business to really keep it up and keep it flowing here. I think this is a big opportunity because a lot of hosts, one of their number one problems, doesn't matter if you're from Maine, if you're from the Poconos, wherever, it's hiring cleaners.
Mhm.
So from someone like yourself who is such an expert at recruiting, at hiring, and has already built your own cleaning team, what are some hiring tips you can share about hiring a cleaning
Ooh,
team?
okay. Um, ooh, that's a good question. I would say the first thing is having a team that takes the before pictures and the after pictures. And like, I think I'll say for me, having gone through the cleanings myself for like the first few months, I knew what I was expecting out of the cleaners that I was going to hire. And so I paid, like, I never did a test drive where it was like, I just want to see how you clean this and then I'll give you a yay or nay. I test drove like, okay, do these two, I will pay you, but I also want to see like, are you actually taking pictures of the insides of the cabinets? Are you documenting like any damages, or are you just like, you know, walking past them? And so the first, I will say, I really enjoy my cleaning team now, but it took us about a month or two to really get granular on this is the exact checkpoint of like what I need you to do for each cleaning. And for them, it was also like this is exactly what I need from you when it comes to like restocking. And um, yeah, that was the biggest thing, was like restocking and giving them like enough heads up when it came to like people coming in so that they had enough time to be able to clean in between.
Gotcha, gotcha. So it was as much of a trial period as it was helping them fail in a controlled setting, right? Giving
Yeah,
them the checklist, giving them systems to follow.
yeah,
Another problem that we get from a lot of hosts is they say, well, the cleaner did good for the first 3 months and now they fell off. So
yeah.
how have you been able to keep them on board, keep them as fired up as day one?
I mean, we have open lines of communication. Like if I mess up on something, or like for example, I know that like they're really, really busy on Sundays because that's like the day where, we see the most cleanings. And so I knew that they were likely going to be adding more people to the team, but I was like, okay, I had to check out on like a random Thursday, and I was already at the apartment unit like restocking other apartments. And I was like, hey, I can just go ahead and do a cleaning for one of these other units real quick that y'all were supposed to come to today, because I thought I was helping to alleviate a problem. But like, because we have open and direct conversation, they were like, actually, that takes away from the work of the girls on a random day outside of Sunday, because they're expecting to be able to get paid on that day. So it's small stuff like that. Or like if I see that they left the lockbox number with the exact code on the lockbox without fumbling the numbers after, I'll just text them like, hey, can y'all make sure that going forward you just mix the numbers back up before you leave the unit. So open and direct conversation with any partnership, I feel, even with the apartment complexes, like it saves a lot of headache in the long run.
And you know what? I think someone like yourself, when you say open and direct conversation, it sounds so straightforward. But let's just say you're explaining to somebody who's having a lot of communication issues within their organization. How would you break it down to them? How would you define open and direct conversation?
Yeah, I mean, so if you see a problem that's going on like in the partnership, being able to call it out in a respectful way and empathizing with like, okay, I understand like what they were trying to get at, but this is what I need in order for us to operate in the manner that is aligned with our business model. And knowing that like end of the day, like no one's here to completely wreck your world. I mean, I've had guests out there who are contrary to that statement, but yeah, like most of us, like we're just trying to do our best. And especially with a new partnership, like you don't know what you don't know unless it's raised to you. So now I know, like, I'm not going to randomly clean, just dust off the counter ever again, because that's taking away from someone else's opportunity to provide for their family. So no love lost. It's just let's address it and keep pushing.
That's great. Well, thank you for that. I think that's going to help add a lot of, help fill in the color commentary for those who might be very new to management and trying to build up their cleaning team as well.
Yeah.
And I believe you're in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yes, I am.
Are you guys heading into slow season, or is it you guys peaking into a busier season?
Um, I will say midterm rentals have slowed down, but I haven't seen, like, I'm still around like the high 80s with my occupancy rate. Um, I will say I don't have as many like bookings in December for like the next month as I usually do, but I think that is partly a byproduct of the fact that we're seeing a lot less of those long-term bookings, and those are usually booked way further in advance than someone who just needs like a week, right? So yeah, I don't know. I haven't felt it. I am closely monitoring my calendar like daily though.
Okay, great, great. You are now at 10 units, and I think very quickly you're going to be entering in a phase where a lot of people are very excited to try and hop on the bandwagon. Are you
Yeah.
hitting at the point where a lot of people are trying to throw deals at you, maybe trying to get a part of the action now?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And some days I question, like, am I operating from a scarcity mindset by not partnering with people, or am I operating out of a space of like I want to be able to get my business to where I aspire to be without any potential hiccups down the road that are out of my control, right? So I don't know. It's a yeah, I probably get at least one outreach a week. And I'm just like, let me think about that and get back to you next year and I'll, reevaluate my business plan. So,
Yeah, we find usually around this time, again, between that 7 to 10, people are starting to take notice.
yeah,
And now everyone's just trying to, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, could you
yeah,
take a look at my place? Can you manage my place? So it's a
yeah,
great place to be.
it is. I think it's important to stay anchored to like the original goal and be open to like maybe this could be an opportunity where it would make sense. But I honestly, in full transparency, like I don't know enough about that partnership space yet. When it comes to either partnering with a different business or, hey, can you fly out to Arizona for me and I'll pay you to, put together my unit and find a place for me. And I'm like, you realize it's a lot more work than just like, putting together a space and calling an apartment complex. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what.
What is next for you? Have you mapped out what's going to happen next? Is it more acquisitions? It sounds like you're optimizing, but
Mhm.
what does the next few months look like for you?
Yeah, so for the rest of the year, I'm big chillin', and I will be basically leveraging whatever capital I get from these 10 to do my next acquisition, likely in February or March of next year, based off of like what the numbers are looking like. And then yeah, my goal next year is to do another like 10 to 15. I'm also cognizant of the fact that I got a wedding coming up next year, so I don't want to sign myself up for more than I will actually enjoy. Um, yeah, and then we'll see where that takes us. Like, I think I will say during this time where I'm not doing acquisitions, I am reevaluating like my systems. Yesterday, I went back and actually went through like my current pricing, and especially with like the looming like slow season coming up, like I'm thinking through like adjustments that may need to be made there. But yeah, it's just like cleaning up my systems and making sure that going forward, like I'm in a place where I'm able to continue to build upon a strong foundation.
Wonderful, wonderful. Would you say right now you're still of more of an arbitrager, or have you really started to develop your own brand and your own product market fit?
Ooh, what do you mean by product market fit?
Much like you said, you've already started tapping into the midterm stays and the
Mm-hmm.
corporate and the nursing. We have hosts that just do that.
Yeah.
right? Christian Bowman out in Buffalo, he just does midterms. Amazing,
Yeah.
right? Mike
Yeah.
Stone wants to get as many properties as possible. Monish and Chandi, well, they want to develop their Angie Stay brand. So for
Yeah.
yourself, is it more, are you still more of a tactician, or are you starting to seep into the, no, let's turn this into a brand?
I don't think I'm at the point of like brand yet. I think again, like kind of drawing parallels to what we're seeing in tech, like right now it's a period of adjustment. So I could desire to only do midterms, but if the demand for travel nurses isn't there right now, like I can't force that and I have to pivot and adjust to like what the market is, showing me right in front of me. So in the perfect world, I'm purely midterm. But I have seen the increase in profit by sprinkling in the short terms, and it's fascinating, like seeing it unfold before my eyes. Where it's like, okay, I could charge 2,900 a month for a midterm, or I could have nights where I'm charging like 140 or 150 a night, and then be able to leverage like those shorter terms to be able to increase that profit to closer to like 3,200 a month. So yeah, I'm excited. Like it's I feel like this is a season of like figuring out what works and then continuing to scale with that. So
I got a great question for you here. You have such a rich work history, of course, with your scholastic training and engineering, and obviously with recruiting. How do those serve you as you're running the Airbnb business? Where do those two parts of the mind really come up and help you in the business?
yeah, I think like this business is a perfect mix for me. So it's like the people aspect, like I genuinely do enjoy serving people and finding ways to create experiences, or like anytime I get a review that's like, this is the comfiest bed I've ever slept in, or like this is the coziest apartment I've ever experienced on Airbnb, like that lights me up. And then there's the like critical thinking slash like analysis side of the brain where it's like, okay, this is working, but how can I find ways in which like I can create, better efficiencies, or I can I don't know, like I think about how I can increase my profit per month by like tweaking things here and there. So um I recently increased my cleaning fee. I know Sean is very big on like not going there, but it's trial and error season. And I think the newest rollout of like the updates with Airbnb and like the transparency that will be upfront for guests, I think it may impact like how people do lay out their pricing strategy going forward and like providing that breakdown.
Amazing, amazing. I'm going to switch tracks a little bit because you're, again, I think this is such a great opportunity to inspire a lot of people out there who may not feel like they have a chance, maybe due
Mm-hmm.
to whatever gender, skin, um, whatever social economic level you're in.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of message would you say to those that have already discounted them out, or maybe do think that landlords won't take them seriously, or that maybe they don't have the right environment to uplift them to start something like this? What kind of advice would you give them?
Bet on yourself. That's it.
Bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself and trust that numbers don't lie. So when you're doing the market research and the numbers are telling you like this is the supply, this is the demand, and this is my potential profit, like I don't know. I don't know where I would be if I didn't make the investment in myself and like bet on the fact that I knew that I could execute on what I signed myself up for.
That's great. That's great. What are you studying more of now? Is it more podcasts? Is it books? What are you studying most of right now?
All of it. I'm
All
crazy.
of it?
I'm like, yeah, I love learning.
What are some great resources that you'd recommend for startup hosts right now, or even any phase of hosts that's really helped you shift the needle?
Oh, dang, I wasn't ready for this question. Specific. I mean, Sean is always a wealth of knowledge. I've enjoyed his recent debut. He's been doing a lot more content on Instagram, which has
Yes,
tickled.
he's back.
Um, Podcast. I mean, I don't know. Um, let me scroll through my phone. Give me 1 second.
Earn Your Leisure was good. You did mention that at the
I
beginning.
love like
That's
Earn
a
Your
great,
Leisure.
great show.
Absolutely incredible. Okay, I love for there's a podcast called the Hello Seven podcast. There's a woman named Rachel Rogers who's very big on decreasing and closing the wealth gap with people who are from marginalized communities. And she does a lot of podcasts around like changing your money mindset.
Hmm.
And that's actually another investment I made after joining Sean's course is like, once I saw like what one investment could do, I'm like what other ways can I invest in myself and like continue to grow, you know, as Breanne. And so with that podcast, it's not specific to Airbnb, but it's very big on like, if you want it, like go get it and go find the resources to make it happen. Um, yeah, sorry, that's all I have right now. Yeah, let's just end there.
That's great because that is a big one. I do believe money mindset is such an integral part
Yeah.
of believing in yourself. Because, like you said, if you have the literal and you have the numbers, well, the last part is just making it a reality in your brain and
And
realizing
like
that,
truly believing that like you can
yes,
do it.
yes,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, Breanne, thank you very much. This time has actually flown by. If there are others out there who want to follow your journey, who want to learn more from you, how can they find you?
I am on Instagram, really. Maybe one day I'll get on the TikTok, but I'm on Instagram at it's breezy underscore bree. So ITSBREEZY underscore BREE. And I've actually been sharing my Airbnb journey on there. So I think my first post was that first OMG. I got my first booking with Airbnb, and ever since then, like I've just been like sporadically sharing updates. So yeah, as I scale to, I'm pushing for 1 million by 2024. So
Let's go.
yes, yeah. Good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Bree, for joining us on the show. You are an absolute fountain of knowledge, and I think you're going to inspire a lot of people out there. Do you have any last words for anyone, for the hosts out there?
I would just say like genuine. I mean, for hosts and people who are aspiring to be hosts, like bet on yourself, trust the process, and take the lessons and apply them so that you don't make the same mistake twice. That's been like my motto, and just know like it's not going to be rainbows and unicorns all the time, but it's it's part of the journey to help you continue to grow and become the host like Sean, where it's just like doing numbers, monthly, yearly. So he's an inspiration for me as well, and I just hope to be an inspiration to others too.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm absolutely sure you are. Thank you for joining us on the show. Guys, if you guys are interested in this, if you want to follow Bree, follow myself, all of our information will be posted under this YouTube video. Also, remember that we have lots of free content. You do not need to buy a course to get started. We have more free content on the internet on the topic of arbitrage and Airbnb than anybody else out there. But of course, if you're really getting serious and you want to have the right resources, the roadmap, the blueprint, if you want to work with Sean directly as you start your Airbnb business, or if you're at the part where you're about to scale your business to 10 units, 20 units, 50 units, you can click the link below, schedule a call with us. We'd be happy to talk about your business and really develop a strategic plan. This week's guest again, Breanne, thank you for following us again. My name is Donnie. I work here with Sean Rocket's team. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.